Along the sun-drenched coast of Italy, a city hummed with life. Its streets were paved with ambition, its homes filled with art, and its markets echoed with the noise of a busy community. This was Pompeii, a bustling Roman city of up to 20,000 people who lived, loved, and worked under the warm Campanian sky. You had merchants and politicians, artists and enslaved workers, each with a story, each with a future they thought they knew. But these people had no idea they were living in the shadow of a time bomb, a mountain that, in just a matter of hours, would not only destroy their city, but preserve it for eternity. They knew it only as Mount Vesuvius, a green and fertile peak, great for growing grapes and for hunting. In fact, they didn't even have a word for volcano. The ground often trembled, but that was just life in the region of Campania. They weren't a warning, just a nuisance. They couldn't have known they were living out the final, ordinary days of one of history's most extraordinary disasters. To really get the scale of the tragedy, you have to understand the vibrant world that was lost. Pompeii wasn't some sleepy village. It was a prosperous and sophisticated city, a perfect snapshot of the Roman Empire at its peak. At the heart of it all was the Forum, a huge public square where business deals were struck, politics were argued, and justice was served. Towering temples to Jupiter and Apollo stood as monuments to faith and power, showing off Pompeii's importance. From the Forum, stone-paved streets shot outwards, lined with shops, workshops, and houses. The main drag, the Via dell'Abbondanza, was a constant hive of activity. Bakeries filled the air with the smell of fresh bread, their heavy millstones often turned by enslaved people and donkeys in grueling shifts. Taverns and thermopolia, basically ancient fast food joints, dished out hot meals and wine to people on the go. The city's walls were like a public notice board, covered in everything from campaign slogans to personal gossip, giving us a raw, unfiltered look into what was on people's minds. Life here was deeply divided, yet everyone was connected. Wealthy merchants lived in sprawling, luxurious homes called a domus, built around open-air courtyards. Their walls were covered in stunning frescoes of gods, heroes, and daily life. Recent digs have found even more of this opulence, like a jaw-dropping banquet hall, with black walls painted with scenes from the Trojan War. But not everyone lived like that. Most of Pompeii's residents crammed into smaller apartments or insulae, often right above their shops. The city ran on the labor of artisans, tradesmen, and a large population of enslaved people. A recently discovered bakery that doubled as a prison shows the brutal reality of their world. It had iron bars on the windows and grooves carved into the floor to guide the blindfolded animals who turned the mills for hours on end. Still, for all its divisions, the city knew how to relax. The public baths were a cornerstone of daily life, a place to get clean, but also to socialize and unwind. And the grand amphitheater, the oldest one we know of in the entire Roman world, could hold the city's whole population. This is where they'd watch gladiators fight with the same passion we have for sports today. Life in Pompeii was loud, messy, and colorful. It was a city that was completely, utterly alive right up to the very end. For the people of Pompeii, the day the world ended started out completely normal. The ground had been shaking for years, but they were used to it. A big one back in 62 AD had done some serious damage, and nearly 2 decades later, they were still rebuilding. But on that fateful day in 79 AD, the signs became impossible to ignore. For a long time, we thought the date was the 24th of August, based on a letter from the only eyewitness who wrote it all down, Pliny the Younger. But new evidence like autumn fruits, warmer clothing on the victims, and a charcoal note found in 2018 points to the eruption happening about 2 months later, probably on the 24th of October. Around 1 p.m., with a deafening boom, Vesuvius blew its top. A volcanic plug that had been stuck for centuries burst open, shooting a column of gas, ash, and pulverized rock miles into the sky. Pliny the Younger, watching from across the bay, said the cloud looked like a giant pine tree, a terrifying sight against the blue sky. For the next few hours, a deadly rain fell on Pompeii. Not water, but billions of tons of lightweight pumice stones and hot ash. This relentless storm buried the city, piling up several inches every hour. The sky went black, plunging the day into a terrifying, unnatural night. Panic set in. Some people ran for their lives, trying to get to the coast. Others hid in their homes, hoping to wait it out. But as the pumice piled up, its weight became crushing. Roofs started to groan and then collapse, killing those sheltering inside. Pliny the Elder, a naturalist and a Roman fleet commander, actually launched a rescue mission. He sailed his ships right into the chaos that everyone else was fleeing. But the sea was already choked with falling debris, and he couldn't get close enough to help. As night fell, the eruption got even worse. Sometime after midnight, the massive column of ash and gas collapsed under its own weight. This unleashed the first of several pyroclastic surges, superheated, fast-moving avalanches of toxic gas and volcanic matter. These clouds of death raced down Vesuvius at over 100 kilometers per hour, with temperatures hitting hundreds of degrees. The first surges obliterated the nearby town of Herculaneum, killing its people instantly. For a few more hours, Pompeii was spared. There was even a brief pause in the falling ash just before dawn, a false sense of hope that the worst was over. But then, on the morning of the second day, the deadliest surges finally reached the city. They blasted through the streets and into every hiding place. The heat was so intense, estimated at over 250 degrees Celsius, that it killed people on the spot, even those inside buildings. The air, thick with ash and poison gas, suffocated anyone who survived the heat. In a matter of minutes, everyone left in Pompeii was gone. The city frozen in time. When the eruption finally stopped, Pompeii had vanished. It was buried under 19 to 23 feet of ash and pumice, a vast, silent tomb. The entire landscape had changed. Survivors probably tried to come back to dig for their belongings, but the city was just gone. The Roman government tried to organize relief, but it was a lost cause. Pompeii was abandoned, and over the centuries, its name and location faded into legend. For more than 1,500 years, the city slept. It was rediscovered by accident in the late 16th century, but real, systematic digging didn't start until 1748. And what they found was a miracle. The volcanic ash that had destroyed the city also created a perfect time capsule of Roman life. Buildings, art, and everyday objects were all found exactly where they'd been left. Bread was still in the ovens. Coins were scattered on bar counters. A meal was left half-eaten. It was an entire city, frozen in its final moment. But the most haunting discovery came in the 1862nd. Archaeologists noticed there were strange empty spaces in the hardened ash. They realized these were the voids left behind by the victims' bodies after they had decomposed. By carefully pouring liquid plaster into these cavities, they were able to create detailed casts of the people of Pompeii. These casts are a direct, gut-wrenching link to the past. They show the human tragedy with heartbreaking clarity. We see a man shielding his face, a mother clutching her child, a group of people huddled together for a protection that never came. These aren't just artifacts. They're the final, agonizing poses of real people, telling us that many died from suffocation or from the instant shock of the heat. Over 1,500 bodies have been found at Pompeii and Herculaneum, but we'll never know the true death toll. The digging continues to this day, and new secrets are always coming to light. Recent finds include the skeletons of a wealthy man and an enslaved person killed, fleeing together, and even children's drawings scribbled on a wall. Each discovery adds a new layer to the story, reminding us that this was a real, living place. The story of Pompeii is an incredible reminder of how fragile life is, but also how resilient history can be. It shows us how thousands of lives can be wiped out in an instant, yet be preserved for all time. If you found this look into the lost world of Pompeii fascinating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more stories from our ancient past. Pompeii is so much more than a ruin. It's a conversation with the past. When you walk its silent streets, you can almost hear the echoes of the crowds, the merchants haggling in the forum, and the roar from the amphitheater. It's a unique window into the Roman world, but it's also a somber monument to a terrifying disaster. And looming above it all is Mount Vesuvius, a constant, quiet reminder that the forces of nature that destroyed Pompeii are still very much alive. The story of this lost city, forever frozen in time, will continue to fascinate and humble us for generations to come.